Hello and welcome to the next version of the NextGEOSS webinar series. Only this time we have a special edition because we are cooperating with eShape, another Horizon 2020 project in this particular webinar, and you will hear more about it. My name is Bente Lilja Bye. I'm going to be your host today. And with me, I have, I would say, a co-host this time, Marie-Francoise, and also, as usual, the excellent speakers and experts. Before I start on the program, and this is a trademark, as you may know, if you've attended any of the other webinars, that we do some weather reports before we start so that people can come into the room. So I will start with a weather report from, let's start with you, Marie-Francoise. Let us know where you are and how the weather is.
So I am in Toulouse, south of France, and the sky is gray, but there is a lot of light, which is the most important for me. It's around 18 degrees, which is a little bit cold for me, but I know it is not for you, Bente. No. And the weather is fine, no rain and no wind.
Thank you for that weather report. And for you who heard Marie-Francoise breaking up a little bit, that's will disappear later when she turns off her camera. Just saying that. But bouncing further, I don't know where are you situated, Marco? Can you let us know where you are and what the weather is like?
Yeah, I'm in Ispra, in Italy, in the north of Italy, and currently it's cloudy, but not so cold. So I would say around 15 degrees, which is still fine. So autumn still far away, it seems.
Well, sounds lovely to me. I will report shortly, but first we are going to Jovanka. Jovanka, where are you and what is the weather like?
Hello, I'm in Berlin. And it's cloudy, which is usual for here, but we have around 18 degrees, which is not usual.
That sounds very warm. I can tell you that here in Norway, where I am, I'm just a little bit north of Oslo. We have a very cloudy day. It's this or is it plants here is lying. It looks like it's sunshiny inside. It's not. It's a gray day. It's an overcast day with some rain. And one digit number of plus degrees. So not too bad. And you just arrived on time, Louise. Welcome to the webinar. And you can jump right on to give us a weather report where you are. Tell us where you are and what the weather is like.
Yeah, very good. I'm very happy to be here. And yes, I'm in Gettysburg. I think I'm maybe the only person across the ocean. Probably, but it's, I would say, beautiful here. I think it's like 50 degrees, well, in my scale. So maybe it is like 10 degrees or something like that. But it's sunny, and I'm also glad to see the trees changing color. So it's awesome.
Okay. Well, the metric system, huh? Yeah. So, well, with that, we can start the program. I'm delighted to have you all here, and I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to learn all about standards and how we can check if they are compliant in your applications or service. So the program today is we will start and learn about the Inspire validator. Then we will jump to OGC. Louis will tell us about that. Then we will also hear about a return on experience from Jovanka, who has used the NASA validator. So that is shortly the program today. But before I give the floor to each of the speakers, I would like to give the floor to Marie-Francoise, who can tell us a little bit about the background for this particular webinar.
Thank you, Bente. So, yes, this was an idea. I am involved in two H2020 projects, which are NextGEOSS and eShape. And NextGEOSS, in NextGEOSS, I am in charge of engagement, and in eShape, I am in charge of implementation. And these webinars contribute to capacity building. And as you know, capacity building is important for both activities, because for engagement, it builds the trust, and it helps communications with the future partners you want to engage. And for implementation, eShape is at its beginning of development, and it's very important to align the knowledge understanding of the partners, and this will facilitate the adoption of the standards. So this is my aim, defining this webinar, and I hope that you will encourage with these short presentations all the developers I will interact with later to adopt these tools.
Yes, so this webinar is surely for the developers, and it's some of it. This is actually quite new, as I have understood it, and so you are at the right place to get better knowledge about these powerful tools. Before we start, then one more last thing, you can actually ask questions to these experts in the chat box. And for you to familiarize yourself with the tool, I would love to hear what the weather is like where you are. So do the same as the presenters. Tell us where you are and give us a weather report. And while you are listening to the presenters, to the information you get, you can also ask questions in the chat box. So the agenda is as follows. We start with Marco, with the Inspire validator, then we go to OGC, and then we hear about the return on the experience and the NASA validator. And at the end, we have a Q&A. But in between, if you have some questions for clarification and so on, you can also ask questions. So I will give some time to ask questions also between. But the main part of the discussion and the questions will be at the end of the webinar. We will try to stay within the hour, so you have an idea of how long we are going to stay in here. So with that, I think we are ready to start, actually. So, Marco, let us hear about the latest from the Inspire.
Yes, so thanks. And well, first of all, maybe a couple of words about myself. So yeah, I'm Marco Minghini. I'm an environmental engineer, and I studied actually in Italy at Politecnico di Milano, where I also got a PhD in GIS. And then I stayed there to work as a postdoc for other 4 years, so mainly in projects about GIS and remote sensing, and mainly also on volunteer geographic information. So I'm kind of an expert, especially on OpenStreetMap. Then 1 year ago, more or less, I joined the European Commission Joint Research Center here in Ispra, still in the north of Italy, where I work in Unit B6, that is a digital economy unit, and I'm part of the team responsible for the Inspire maintenance and implementation. In particular, I'm the main responsible for the Inspire validator. Well, I'm also a supporter of open source software. I'm a charter member of the Open Source Geospatial Foundation, OSGeo, and well, regular presenter at Phosphor-G conferences, and I'm also part of the editorial board of a new journal called the Open Geospatial Data Software and Standards. With that, I think we can start. So let me just turn my webcam off and share my screen. Yeah, so again, the presentation will be on the Inspire reference validator. I would like to start just with an introduction to give some context for those of you who are less familiar with Inspire. So Inspire is a directive defining a legal, a technical, and an organizational framework for the creation of a European Union spatial data infrastructure to support environmental policies.
Marco, we don't see your slides yet.
Sorry. Let me try again to share the screen. Yes, can you see it now?
Oh, we will. It seems like it's coming. And can you start from the top for the recording?
Sure.
The recording?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah, as I said, this is just a presentation on the Inspire reference validator. And I'd like just to start with a short introduction on Inspire, which is a directive that aims to create a legal, but also a technical and an organizational framework for the creation of a European spatial data infrastructure, SDI, to support EU environmental policies. This infrastructure should be built on top of the spatial data infrastructures of the member states, so which are already existing and already operated by the single member states. INSPIRE was conceived starting from 2001. The directive entered into force in 2007, and its full implementation is foreseen for 2021. So INSPIRE, as I said, is an environmental directive, and the spatial data sets that fall under the scope of INSPIRE are divided into 34 cross-sectoral categories, which are called spatial data themes, and they belong to 3 annexes because they are actually listed in the annexes of the directive. So basically, Annex 1 and Annex 2 deal with baseline information, while Annex 3 deals with more domain-specific information. So here you can see basically all these 34 spatial data themes. From the practical point of view, the directive is complemented by so-called implementing rules and technical guidelines. So implementing rules that you see on the top of the slide are legally binding documents. So they say what the member states must do to fulfill the INSPIRE requirements, so the legal obligations, in terms of the different components, which are basically metadata, metadata to discover the data, data specifications for each of the 34 spatial data themes, so basically the conceptual data models, and the network services, which are divided into discovery services to discover the data through the metadata, view services, and download services to access and to download the data. Then we have the technical guidelines, which are non-legally binding, so they basically say how member states might implement the INSPIRE directive from the technical point of view, and they make explicit reference to the OGC and to the ISO geospatial standards. And finally, at the bottom of the slide, we have tools for INSPIRE implementation, and one of these tools is clearly the validator. So why an INSPIRE validator? First of all, for different reasons. First, to help member state data providers to test their resources. So again, metadata, datasets and services against the requirements of INSPIRE. But the validator is also a tool for INSPIRE coordinators, so both at the EU level, so for us basically, but also coordinators at the member states national level to monitor the INSPIRE implementation progress. The validator is also a reference tool for all the software providers who which develop solutions for INSPIRE. Think, for example, to GeoNetwork or GeoServer or MapServer or Degree, and so on. And the validator was and is still funded by the ISA and ISA Square programs under, in the past, the ARENA, and currently under the ELISE actions. So the validator is actually not a single software, but it's based on a number of components. The starting point is still represented by the INSPIRE technical guidelines, which, as I said, define requirements for all the resources, so metadata, datasets, and services. These technical guidelines in the first step are translated into abstract test suites, or ATS, which are the abstract or the high-level descriptions of test cases. In turn, these are translated into ETS, so executable test suites, which are the concrete, so the low-level descriptions of the test cases that can be executed by programs. And finally, we have the ETF testing framework, which is the software where the ETS are run. So when we speak about the INSPIRE reference validator, we actually mean the set of these components. More in detail, the ATS and the ETS, so the abstract and the executable test suites, are always developed in agreement with a specific subgroup of the MIG, which is the INSPIRE Maintenance and Implementation Group. It's a group of experts, basically, and they are all published and maintained on GitHub, so everything under open source licenses. We currently have ATS and ETS for metadata, for CSW discovery services, WMS and WMTS view services, and Atom, WFS, WCS, and SOS download services. In terms of data sets, there are ATS and ETS for cross-cutting requirements, and then ATS and ETS for those spatial data themes falling under Annex 1 of the directive. And then we have the ETF testing framework, which is basically the software where the ETS can be run. The ETF is an open source testing framework that allows to validate any resource in an SDI, and any deployment is composed of a database, one or more test engines to execute the ETS, and a servlet container to host the web application. Currently, the ETF has test drivers for 3 test engines, so SOAP UI to test web services, BaseX to test XML documents, and Team Engine, which is also the testing tool used by the OGC. The ETF and in turn the Inspire reference validator that is based on the ETF, they can be used either through HTML web interface or through a REST API, and a Docker image is also available for quick deployment. This is basically how the web application of the reference validator looks like. And so first thing is to select the type of resource you want to test, as well as the conformance classes that you want to test. Then you have to provide clearly the resource to be tested. So if it is a data set or a metadata, you should upload the resource or put a link to the resource. If it is a service, you need to enter the service endpoint. Then you start the test is executed, and you can access the test report. This is basically how it looks like for each of the conformance classes you tested. Then you can expand it and have access to the details of which tests passed, which tests failed, and which tests perhaps require a manual check by the users, because not all the tests can be automated. So some tests may require a manual check from the users. But as I said, you can also use the Inspire validator through the API, which is published and documented using OpenAPI. I'm happy to say that more and more member states are actually starting to make their validation using the API that clearly allows to automate the tests and to test a lot of resources at the same time or with less effort. Important to say that in terms of functionality, in particular in the interface, there is a steering group for the ETF software, which is complemented by a technical committee. The role of the technical committee is clearly more to provide technical feedback on the improvement proposals and to review pull requests. Then clearly it's an open source software, so any contribution from anyone is more than welcome, and contribution guidelines are regulated by the EUPL and by the Developer Certificate of Origin. If you want to have an idea of what are the current improvement proposals under discussion or under analysis from the technical committee or under, let's say, already planned for release, you can just access this project board on GitHub. The link is below. Instead, the main interaction, or actually all the interactions with the Inspire community, happen through the so-called community space, which is another repository on GitHub in the same GitHub workspace that I mentioned before. This is meant to be really the single point of access to anything about the validator. So we provide here a changelog and a release planning document to inform users about the current and also the future developments of the validator. And we also provide a single help desk where users can report problems with the validator or propose new features of the validator, or also open discussions about the validator. So it's really the single place where we want anything about the validator to occur. And well, in terms of current and future work, probably the most important news is that we are now using the validator to test the conformity of metadata within the Inspire monitoring and reporting. This is absolutely new, because in the past, the monitoring and reporting didn't happen through the validator. In terms of ATS and ETS, we are working to basically finalize the set of test suites by adding those for Annex 2 and 3 data specifications. These will also address testing coverage datasets. But also interesting is that we might in the future add new test suites according to requirements emerging from the Inspire maintenance and implementation work program, and in particular about validation of data sets encoded using alternative encodings, for example, GeoJSON, because you know that the Inspire default encoding is GML, but another action of the MIG, the Inspire maintenance and implementation group, was exactly on alternative encodings, and a GeoJSON encoding of Inspire data was developed. Then I'd like to close just by mentioning this workshop that we had at the beginning of October. It was a 2-day workshop, 1 day for users of the validator and 1 day for developers. we produced some training material for the workshop that we decided to make available, again, on GitHub for the benefit of everyone. So it basically consists of presentations, but also some step-by-step tutorials on how to perform validation through the web application and through the API. That's it. Hope it was useful, and of course, I'm open to any question. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marco. That was very interesting and a lot to take in. We had a question in while you were speaking if the slides will be made available, and indeed they will. So you will all be able to study the slides at the comfort of your home or your office. And you will also, since you are registered here, of course, you will get the replay in your inbox within a few hours. I don't remember exactly what timing I put it on, but normally within this afternoon. So, Marco, can you unshare your screen, please?
Oh, yes, sure.
So,
yeah, now.
Yeah. So if you and you can come back to us. So you have some time to ask questions here in while we are preparing to learn from Luis. But while you are writing, I will have a question myself. So there was some rumors that, well, it's not rumors, but there was some concern that the Inspire directive would not continue when you had this change of political leadership. Do you have any news on that? Can we trust that the work on the Inspire standards will continue? Marco?
I lost everyone, I think. Okay. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay,
it's just Luis is starting to share his screen a little bit.
The sound has disappeared quickly. So yes, no, I can just clarify. So the Inspire directive will absolutely go on because we are very close to the formal finalization, basically, although there's still some work to do for member states in terms of making available their datasets and services. So formally the last deadlines are for 2020, 2021, but you may be sure that the Inspire directive and the work that the JRC is doing also from the technical perspective will continue even after. Of course, we are still, since we are approaching the deadlines for Inspire, we are having a lot of internal conversations and discussions with the DG Environment, which is actually the Directorate General for Environment of the European Commission, that is the policymaker of Inspire. So those, they are actually leading Inspire from the political point of view. Rest ensure that the work that they and we will be doing on Inspire will absolutely continue. It's a process. We are working closely with the member states, and there's really a lot going on. And as you know, a lot of investments have been actually made to make Inspire a reality. So up to now, there is no idea and no direction to stop it.
No, excellent. I just wanted to manifest that so that it's meaningful to continue to work on this. I know it's appreciated actually beyond Europe as well. We can discuss more in the Q&A. Now I see that Luis is ready to go. And Luis, can you then introduce yourself? You were a little bit quick on the trigger there. Can you introduce yourself and then you start your presentation? And remember to, when you're done with introducing yourself, turn off your camera again, okay? You need to turn, you are unmuted, Luis.
Okay, I'm here again. Yeah. So thank you, Marie and Bente, for this invitation. So I started about 10 years ago at OGC, and my job then was to lead only the compliance program, where we evolved. We made all the OGC validation tools available to the public. We opened the tests, and now everything is in GitHub, and we have a great community behind the OGC validation tools, which is great. And people really know more about this. And now I get invited to give talks about compliance. So, so I think it's working. So I'm going to talk today about the validation tools. I'm going to go a little bit fast, but hopefully this is a reference for you to use when you want to get OGC certified, or you want to learn or to go back and say, hey, where was the link to the GitHub that Luis provided at the webinar? So that's my goal today, is to provide most of the information possible so you can go on having this presentation and then follow the process to get OGC certified and use our tools.
Yeah,
we'll make the presentation after the.
Yeah, can you turn off your camera as well? Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Luis. Okay. Sorry. Yeah.
So first, why? And I want really to make it clear, why do we need compliance tools? First, well, if we have somebody trying to access services, they can say, yes, great, it's working, I'm able to connect. But the reality is that sometimes this is a little bit broken. And you don't know, why a certain feature is not coming back, why you're not able to read some GML, why the WMS has coordinate reference systems that are inverted or whatever. So we need somehow to provide a proof that, yes, the server or the client or the data, whatever implementation is behind it, is implementing properly and has been tested, and it has a logo that says, yes, I've been certified. I can show that I'm able to implement an OGC standard properly. So we have this OGC compliance badge that is created for every product and for every standard version that is tested against. Right now we have about 980 implementations registered in the portal. And this is because we have, even if we have one product, version 1.0, 1.2, 1.3, all those are different implementations for us. And we have about 297 compliant products. We have been around doing this about 15 years. And we don't only provide a badge, but we provide a database where, if you're interested to know who has been certified, that you can go and search. For the product, you can go and search for the standard and see who has implemented, and also who has been compliant and who is reference implementation. So you can find all that in our database, and this is the link here. And hopefully, if you are an implementer developer, or you are implementing OGC standards, that when you say that you are certified, you can get more business. And this is what it's all about, that you can also interoperate better with other products and solve faster. So how does it work? One, you go to the OGC testing facility, what I will talk a little bit later. Then you apply online, you pay the license fees, you put in the database, and then you can use the certified logo. So it's really very simple. Now, the license fees are this, because I always get asked this question. So it really, if you are a small company and you are a non-member, it's 300. It's very, very little. If you're a big company, then it's a little bit more. If you are a member and higher members, then you get like unlimited packages. If you're a reference implementation, which is you make your software available for anybody to test on the web for free, then we'll say thank you very much, and we'll waive the fee, because we are working towards a greatest good together and we like it. So it's the compliance program has tools and community. We have a lot of contributors. We are built in open source as well. We use Java, TestNG, Maven, all that good stuff. We have a public forum that we used a lot, but currently the discussions happen more at the GitHub issues place. So for particular tests, we see a lot of discussions, and for Team Engine as well. And we have in the past collaborated with some European projects, like for example, Epsilon Italy, that were in charge some years ago. I don't know if they are still in creating some GML tests. So we collaborated to be able to use OGC test and Team Engine in their environment. So the site team, Dirk, Stenger, and Latlong, they are in charge of the compliance tool. They are the managers. And we have test leads. So for every standard, we want to have a lead. We don't have a lead for all of them, but we have for most of them. And if you want to know more about who's contributing, you can go there. But we do two major releases every year, and we do beta releases every month. Now, how to test? If you go to this is the official site. You will see like this welcome page, talks about the benefits and links to the GitHub, to the forum, process of how to get certified, tells how do we do the testing, links to the OGC implementation database. So this is a good starting point. And you will see the tests that we have currently available. So you see the versions of the standards and also the versions of the revision of the test that is being available. Everything is in GitHub. So this is the GitHub for Team Engine, which is the tool. And this is the GitHub link to the information about how to use Team Engine, which I'm going to talk a little bit about it. So there are different ways that you can run it. You can run it in the production website. There's also a beta website. You can use it via the REST API. You can download and install it locally. You can run it via Docker, or you can download only the test and run it via TestNG. This is good for developers if you want to do continuous integration with your software, that you download TestNG, you put some checkpoints, and then you can interact with your software. This has been very convenient. So that's really the good thing about using the OGC validator, that has all these different options that you can run it. So how do you run it? You log in. It's very simple. You just register, log in. Then it will tell you if you want to create a new session, or you can see previous sessions, which will show the when you run it and description. You can delete the session, and you can click and see the results. If you want to start a session, then it will pop you to select a standard. And we have here organization because there are some, this is open source, so we allow everybody to download it, and anybody that is interested, and just have different organizations. So the model is, you can have different organizations. For each organization, you can have different standards. So you pick the standard, and then it will pop you to provide some input to run the test, like the endpoint, right? The capabilities URL. And then you get the results. The results summarize the test name, what the time, the input that was used, the results. We use in OGC these terms of core conformance classes, which is just grouping of tests. So it will provide you information about if the core conformance plus test, if you can get certified, and some statistics about it. And you can go down into more details and see, well, in a particular test, give me the description. You said the test name, the test description, the test result, the test request, and if there is a reason for failure, then you will see it. There is also this wiki that allows, if you're interested in developing the tests, it will tell you how to do it. So there is a guide for TestNG, how to code this test in TestNG, how do you start. There is some configuration so it can run in Team Engine, but everything is open and is hopefully easy for some of you to use. Now, how to get OGC certified? So once you go to Team Engine and run the test, you go to this portal, which is information about the products. So you sign in, and then you see this tab. You see an overview, product listing, and compliance, and then your username. When you go to Team Engine and test, and then you can link to whatever you want to being certified for. Then the second tab here is product listings. You have all the products that you want to register. So you give the name, and then you provide the version number, the product type. You can link with some standards. And then you click on the compliance tab, and this is where you say, this is my product. You pick the Team Engine session, which then tell us which product you want to be certified against. You provide information about your company. You need to review the certification mark license agreement, and then you save or you submit. And when you submit, then you get then we receive it, we review it, and in 2 days you can get certified, and you get the badge. So it's really, 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 really simple. The beta website contains tests that have not been approved. For example, I want to really highlight this one, which is WFS3. This is the first test that uses the Open API, like Swagger kind of framework. So it's a different kind of testing because we are also not testing, the REST approach, which can be a little bit tricky because sometimes you can have loops, but we are able to deal with those now. And we also test JSON encodings. So this is how it looks like. So you can go to TE2, which is the where the beta website is. You will find some information about WFS3. And for example, it asks for the endpoint, and also you can configure the limit number of collections that will be tested. I put also some more resources here. This is the main page of the compliance website at OGC. You can also from here get information about frequently asked questions about what is the difference between comply, conform, and implement, so you can use properly that language in your website. Here is the link to how to get OGC certified, a good video about overview and benefits, and also we have a video that shows how to test a client. This is very unique also, but I think it will be useful for you to check. And I think that's it. I tried to be brief.
Thank you very much, Luis. That was very efficient and valuable as far as I can tell. Can you unshare your screen, please? And we turn on our cameras again. And while you are doing that, I see we already have one question for clarification here that is related to payment, as you foresaw, Louis. Do we need to pay for a license in order to internally perform compliance tests, for example, regarding the development of WPS?
So no, if you want to get OGC certified, the license is to use the logo, the permission to use the logo. We are, I think, the only standards organization in the world that makes this test an environment for free. Other standards organizations charge, $50,000 is the minimum. We make this because we think it's important. Interoperability is important for the world. We want to, the program is not giving really, it's not a lot of revenue for OGC. It's just there to keep the developers, to have a tool for developers. Yeah, we need to charge some license fee to keep it, at the minimum level. But anybody can download it and can do their own internal testing. But if you want the logo and put it on your website, on T-shirts, wherever, saying that you're OGC certified, then you need to pay the license fee.
Do you really have to do the validation test in order to get that T-shirt also? Huh?
Yes.
So I have a short question. I think I noticed that did you say that you can design your own test also with this tool? So
yes, you can design your own test. This is really
very flexible.
Yes, it's very flexible. TestNG allows to test whatever, and even if you download the Team Engine only, there is a hello test there that you can see. It's a simple example that anybody can use.
Okay, thank you very much, Luis. That was yeah, and just there was a lot of information as was warned about, and you will get the replay and the slides for your consummation afterwards. And we will spread this information as widely as we can. I think this is not only a very useful tool for the members of NextGEOSS and eShape projects, but for the entire Earth observation community using Earth observation and to create applications and services. So it's really a widely useful piece of information we get here today. So with that, let us hear from Jovanka. She has acquired some return on experience. You have been using the NASA validator. So Jovanka, can you, well, first of all, introduce yourself to the audience, and then let us hear about your experience with the NASA validator.
Okay. So my name is Jovanka Gulicoska, and I work as a full stack developer at Datopian. I've been part of the webinar series for a few times till now. But for those that are listening to me for the first time, I am part of the leading team responsible for building the NextGEOSS Data Hub, and together with the other partners, we're also responsible for building data mining and discovery techniques. So that will be kind of like an introduction for me. I can maybe share my screen now.
Yes. So don't be shy, ask questions. Yeah. Yes, we can see your presentation, Jovanka. Go ahead.
Okay. So today I'm going to talk about our experience in NextGEOSS in building the OpenSearch API and how we're testing the results with the NASA validator. As I said, like, we are responsible for developing tools for data mining and discovery for our users, and OpenSearch API was something that was developed for this. I'm going to talk about the issues that we faced and how and about our experience using the NASA validator and how we're resolving the issues that we're facing. On my agenda today, I have OpenSearch standards and compliance, OpenSearch in the Data Hub. Then I'll talk a bit about the NASA validation tool and our experience with it, and in the end, the benefits that we get for following standards and compliance. The Data Hub the NextGEOSS Data Hub is based on CCAN. And by default, CCAN doesn't provide an OpenSearch API. So what we've done is we've developed a support for it. And a great thing about CCAN is that it's really extensible. So you can change the schema of the data sets according to the standard that you wanna follow. So we use this capability of CCAN in NextGEOSS so much, so we can accommodate everyone's needs. One thing that is important for us is we are trying to be OGC compliant, and with that we want to support discoverability of our data, and as well as to provide a standardized results to the user. I will just go back to the screen. As I said, we need the standards in order to provide a better data discovery for the users, and we want them we want to provide a better way for them to find the data. And we're taking all of this into consideration while we're building the Data Hub itself and the OpenSearch API as well. I'm going to talk a bit about the OpenSearch API that we've developed. On this slide, you can find a link to the OpenSearch API endpoint, and you can find a link to the description documents. So the Data Hub provides a special page dedicated to OpenSearch, and you can find where you can find the description documents as well as the OpenSearch API endpoint. It's important to take a look into the description documents and check what parameters are available for us. An interesting thing for the Data Hub is that we collect data from different providers, and we have a lot of, so the number of data collections that we are providing through the Data Hub changes constantly, since we're adding new, since we're harvesting data from different portals, and we're adding support for them for OpenSearch as well. So if you have in mind the description documents and you're taking a look at them, you can go on and do your and search the Data Hub and try to find the exact results that you're looking for. We also provide a two-step search, which allows the users to first filter the data by collections and then filter the data through the parameters that are available for the particular collection. Except for the API, we've also wanted to take care of the users that are not really feeling comfortable with using the API and querying. So we've added support on the Data Hub UI itself. So you have additional and different filters that will appear depending on the type of the collections, of the type of a collection that you selected. And with that, you can go on and click on the OpenSearch Matching Query button, which will redirect you to the OpenSearch API, and the results will completely match. So let's talk a bit about the interesting part about the nested validation tool and how it has helped us to try and to fulfill everything that OpenSearch requires from us. So the nested validation tool is an online tool that is available to validate the OpenSearch descriptor documents contents, and against a number of different specifications, extensions, best practices, development guides. It gets also updated, so you're up to date with everything. It's interesting that each validation has a score between 0, which is failed, and 5, which is a perfect score. And it provides a detailed information when a rule is not 100% compliant. So you can go and see what you did wrong and how you can improve your description documents in order to provide to the users the exact information that they need. On the bottom of this slide, I have an example of a failed validation, and it gives you a specific information where you should find more information on how you can solve this. Okay, so I will talk a bit about our experience with all of this. As I said, we are collecting data from different providers, and some of them follow different standards. Their APIs are different. Some of them are WPS, some of them provide an OpenSearch API. So we always have to pay attention that we are correctly filtering the metadata and that we are getting the results and saving them as we should. So yeah, we face some complexity to implement some standards because we want to incorporate everything to work well together. And the most and we got a really big help from the nested validation tool in order to improve our OpenSearch description documents according to the collections that we're providing through OpenSearch. One important thing I would say from all that we've learned through this is that you have to pay attention to the metadata and the format that you're saving it. For example, with the spatial field, some of them can be polygons, some of them can be points. So you need to be sure that you are providing the support for it. So you can also pass this nested validation tool with higher score. I can say that the NASA validation tool has helped us with getting where we want to be, and it's really helping us now to improve the OpenSearch API that we are providing. And what are the benefits for following the standards and compliance? You support the discoverability of data. The developers can build quicker when you have something to validate against. It's easier for the developer to find what's wrong, because basically sometimes you have developers that don't have a geo background and they don't know what they should do. So this is really helpful for them. They can check their implementation of the standards and get it fully compliant, not just provide something that is partially or not even there to the users. Continuously improve the implementation as the standard evolves. This is also really important. And the most important benefit that we got from trying to be compliant and following the standards is that we get to integrate with other systems based on the standards, which is really, really important part for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jovanka. That was, it sounds very useful for me as a first, conclusion to go through this validation process. We can start now. You can all start to ask questions. We can go back and forth. You can ask questions to all of us. You can also make some comments. We welcome that as well. I have while you are preparing and writing your questions, I have a question already now from Siri Joda. Yes, and Jovanka answered directly to Siri Joda. The link you provided in the chat, for those of you who haven't paid attention to the chat, there's a link there to where you can find the validator.
It's also available in the slides, so you will be able to see it there as well.
Excellent. So can I ask my experts to come back with their cameras? You are excused, Jovanka. It's nice to see the faces of the speakers. Yes, you can ask questions. I have a couple of questions myself. So first of all, so we heard about your experience, Jovanka, using a validator, and then we heard you, Louise, telling about you given even a certification from OGC. Are these? I mean, would you say that you will probably get even a better result if you use different validators? Are there, certain profiles of these validators that would make it useful to use several validators, or how would you regard that?
I would say that the more the better, because you are making sure that you're satisfying everyone's needs.
Right, so they are sort of testing they can test different aspects. So like what you said, Louise, you can actually design your own test as well with your tools, right?
Yes, but the main purpose is to test against the OGC standard. So we are, I know there are some validators, for example, that ping only the service and just do some requests to the GET capabilities. And there are others, for example, the ones using Inspired, they are using the same methodology of having these abstract test suites and executable test suites. So that's what we do. This is based on an ISO standard. So the more robust that you want to get, and also the purpose, right? If you want to get OGC certified, then you go through the OGC validation tool. I was in a long time, years ago, trying to see if we can align better what Inspire is doing with what OGC is doing, and we've sort of gotten to a certain point. For example, the OGC validation tool exports in W3C EARL format, which we found is the more interoperable way to share reports. That was a conversation we had, I think, with whom? Clemens some time ago. And I know that you can also invoke Team Engine, the Inspire tool. So there's some kind of synergy there. That's good. But yeah, I guess the more that you can test our service is good. But I hope that if we have one tool that we can also all work together to improve, that will be also good.
Yeah. Any comments to that, Marco, as well? You're muted, Marco. You're muted.
Sorry, I share the same feeling as Luis. So, well, Inspire since its very beginning was aimed to be built on top of existing standards. So since the very beginning, the idea was exactly to build on top of ISO and OGC standards. We are also making use of the OGC Team Engine for some of our tests, especially for WFS 2.0. So that's definitely the direction. And for other tests like view services or other download services and also discovery services, basically we are testing against the OGC requirements, plus there are some additional Inspire requirements that are specified in the Inspire technical guidelines. But basically what is at the base, at the foundation is the same kind of tests.
Yes. So just an observation here that what we are talking about here are tools from very serious actors with different roles. So, for instance, JRC, you are a policy organization. You also mentioned that when I asked you a question. Will we continue to have Inspire? Yeah, definitely. The European Commission and JRC, the Inspire Directive is a policy organization in this context. And then OGC is a global organization, a major standards developer. So it's like a serious actors. And NASA, the NASA validator, I think NASA is obviously a major data provider. So we have these tools that are likely to be continued and that we have very serious actors behind. So just an observation and perhaps some motivation for you if you are planning to use both standards and validate your results. I have a question here from Adnane. Can we use this other platforms like ArcGIS and ArcGIS Enterprise? So Open API, I guess, I don't know, Jovanka, this might be to you. I think you're
probably. But can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes.
So no, as I said, the open, so you can use the OpenSearch API to get the results from our data hub. But basically the implementation that we did is directly for CCAN. But you can use it to get the data if you need the data. I don't know if this answers your question.
Adnana, I don't know, the others, Luis and Marco, do you have any comments to this? Any experiences that you want to share?
About like some software as the ones that you mentioned using the test environment? Yeah, so, Esri has, I don't know, maybe like 50, 60 licenses with us. So they go through the process every year testing all the different servers, the different configuration of the servers, because every server can have like a backend different. And they go through the testing there. Even there are also a reference implementation for Catalog 3.0 with the Geo portal because they make it available for free. So yeah, all these, the big players, let's say, they are mostly all OG certified. We have about 300 products.
Yeah. So standards, of course, are one of the key strategies that you can use to make make the data interoperable, which in GEO, the group on Earth observation, this is one of the major achievements we want to reach and gradually are. So standards are really, really important. And then validating the standard it's been pointed out here is time and money to be saved by using standards. I would like, we are very close to the hour now. And if you have a question, you have a small window to ask, while I will ask each of the presenter to give us a key takeaway from their presentation that we can take away for this weekend. So I can start with you, Jovanka. You were last, but not least. So what would you say would be your key takeaway from your presentation?
I would say that the key takeaway from my presentation is if you're collecting data from somewhere, please keep an eye on the metadata. And please make sure that you're following the standards to save it correctly.
Yes. That's the return on experience from using the validator. Yeah, thank you. And then Marco, do you have a key takeaway from us?
I can just say that for sure we see that it's an effort for member states, for everyone to implement Inspire, but if we all do that, at the end we will all benefit from that, and that's probably the key message also for the member states, for anyone.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. And Luis, do you have a key takeaway from us? For us, I don't know why I'm saying it wrong all the time.
I agree. It's an extra effort to get certified and to pass the validation, but I think it's important that jumping to just perfect the service that you have makes it a lot easier for achieve the interoperability that we want. So please use the tools. There are a lot of tools as it was discussed. And if you have any comment, please also give us feedback, because implementers like the Inspire Validator will love also all of us to hear, what's working, what's not working, how can the reports be better, etc.
Yeah, we can learn from each other for sure. And I think this is probably one of your motivations, Marie-Francoise. Do you have any takeaway for us as well? I think you're muted. Yeah.
I really want this to be better known and raise awareness, because these compliance tools are here to...
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you turn off your video, because your sound is breaking up a lot? Yes. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Yes,
well,
it is.
I wanted to raise awareness about these tools because they will help you get all the benefits from the efforts you will make to implement the standards. And then we are now working on web systems where you don't have direct contact with all your users. And so it's better to validate before opening your service on the web than having trouble when hopefully you will have millions of users and all of them will meet the problem. So it's better to test and check very well before that everything is confirmed, compliant, and works fine before opening your system on the web and having trouble after. So this is why it's very important to know about these tools and to use them.
Absolutely. And we are very proud. Both, I'm sure I have the rest of the eShape team with me also on this. We for sure in NextGEOSS, we certainly support this work on using standards and to make in this case, all the pilots that we are creating work the best and save us time and money. To serve the society, to serve the users of the excellent applications and services that are being made. I think we are a little bit over the hour. I don't see any more questions right now. So I will use the opportunity to thank each and every one of you excellent presenters. It was awesome to hear. This is very valuable presentations that we will share wide over a long time. I'm sure this will be beneficial for a wide community. So thank you so much for that. I will also tell you about the next webinar that is related to standards, and that's already next week on the 24th of October. The time is not quite fixed, but it will be on OpenSearch API. It will be about APIs again, which is so crucial to make the data interoperable. So I just wanted to remind you on that. And then on the 30th of October, we will show you an example from the space and security sector. So we have one of the one of our NextGEOSS pilots will talk about their experiences. And you can find more information about this on the NextGEOSS website, nextgeoss.eu. And do follow us in social media to get alerts and more concrete information about how you can sign and register for these webinars. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. And until the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.